Freedom-class Littoral Combat Ship, Ship Brief. The Freedom-class is one of two classes in the LCS program, and one of the things that makes the LCS very unique is her modular mission package capability. This is a small ship designed for shallow water operations near shorelines and can configure herself to any mission that's required, whether it's surface warfare, anti-submarine warfare, or mine countermeasure warfare. She can do any one of those. This particular class, the Freedom class, is built in Wisconsin in the United States on the Great Lakes at a shipyard called Finnicateri Marionette Marine, or FMM for short. They planned on building 16 of these. They've only built 13 and already started decommissioning 5 of them due to problems they had. However, 2 of the remaining Freedom class are for sale to Greece. That sale has not been completed at the time of this recording, but Greece has expressed interest in buying 2 of these ships. Now, some of the weapons that they can hold, and we're going to go in detail into all the different configurations, but something that might surprise you is that she can shoot 24 AGM14 longbow Hellfire missiles, the same or a variant of the longbow missile that's shot from the Apache helicopter. This system can shoot a naval version of that same missile. They all have the Bofors Mark 110 57mm naval gun, no matter what package they have on board, and a Mark 49 Ram point defense missile launcher. She has 2 Mark 46 30mm gun weapon systems in her surface combat mode and can operate unmanned helicopter craft. So let's take a close look at the weapons and countermeasures on board this. Starting at the bow, all the way at the front, is the Mark 110 57mm naval gun. The Naval Strike Missile is going to be placed right behind that forward of the superstructure. It is not in this picture yet. Something that will be kind of a theme here is this whole program has been around for many years, and very few ships have all the equipment they're supposed to have. But that's kind of above and beyond the scope of what we're talking about today. Let's continue moving down the superstructure past the smokestacks to the Mark 47 30mm GWS system. That's the gun's weapon system. And there's 1 port, 1 starboard, and they're remotely operated from inside the ship. This is in its surface combat mode. Behind that is where the AGM14 Hellfire SSM short-range anti-ship missiles are located. And center line of that, right above the helicopter hangar, is the Mark 49 Ram launcher. Now let's look at the sensors, rather. We have at the very top, we'll start at the top of the mast, you have the ANUR-25 air navigation system, and below that is the TRS3D and 4D radar system. And we'll be breaking all these down for you if you're not familiar. Below that is a Faba-Duran EO, or electrical optical system, for targeting and searching in different modes. IR modes, thermal mode, low light mode, things like that are all available. The Argon ST ESM system, there's not much publicly available about it, but just be aware that there is a modern electronic support measure system on board the LCS, the Freedom class. And all the way back aft is the ANSQR-20 towed sonar deployable towed array when she is in her ASW module mode. Here are all the ships and names and times of commissionings. We're not going to read out each one of these out loud, but you can pause this if you're watching the video to see which one of your ships, these are all named after American cities, which one your city is named after and when it was made. All right, like I said, made in the USA, the Finnicateri Marionette Marine is built a shipyard here, or they took over an old shipyard a long time ago in Wisconsin, and they've been building ships for a long time. This is a very experienced, funded shipyard. Not many people know about it because it's not on the East Coast or West Coast. It's in the middle of the nation on the Great Lakes. And they build their ships, and they will take them through Lake Michigan, Lake Huron, through all the Great Lakes into the Atlantic, where they then get either deployed to San Diego or Mayport, Florida, which is the primary bases that they're out of. All right, so let's do LCS by the numbers. Again, specifically Freedom class is what we're talking about. They use a CODAG propulsion system. So it's combined diesel and gas turbine. propulsion. They have a vectored thrust water jets that pushes them through the water to 47 knots. This ship weighs 3,500 tons, so she's certainly in the frigate class in terms of tonnage, but her official designation because of her mission capability is littoral combat. Shallow water, usually near shore combat readiness. She can make 3,500 nautical miles at 14 knots, so that is a significant fact. She cannot maintain 47 knots of speed for any length of time. She burns through her gas rapidly, but she can sprint at 47 knots. Cruising speed, 14 knots, which for the United States Navy is very, very slow. Crew members, 50 crew members is the normal number of crew on board, and they're the ones with the racks and are full-time. An additional 25 crew members can be attached to support the special mission. If she's in the ASW role, she'll get 25 sonar techs and sonar-related people, and mission support people. And then the 50 crew members operate the ship. That's how it's supposed to work. So you'll see the crew members fluctuate between 50 and 75. That's normal. I'm told by crew members in the United States Navy right now, they only have 50 racks on board. So whenever the new crew members come on, they had to camp in the helicopter hangar. So the AGM14 surface-to-surface missile system is installed on the surface warfare package modules. The Mark 110 57 millimeter gun is on the bow on every one of these. The Mark 49 point defense missile system is aft over top of the hangar, like I said, and they can carry the MH60R, which is the new Seahawk helicopter, or the smaller MQ-8 Bravo or Charlie Fire Scout. That is the unmanned, remotely deployable Scout helicopter. The TRS3D 4D search radar is the rotating radar above the bridge, and we'll give you technical descriptions of these systems here in a second. The Lockheed Martin COMTAS 21 combat management system is the new Aegis. It is just stripped down to fit on these smaller, lighter ships, like the Constellation frigate that's being built has this frigate version of Aegis, and it's called COMTAS 21. You'll be seeing this a lot going forward. Fabadorn is the electrical optical director system. Think of it as a remote control camera, if you will, that can also track objects remotely or automatically based on their heat signature or their shape. If it can see a distinction of a contact, it will track that contact without the operator guiding it. But of course, you can manually do it too. They do deploy the AN-SQR-20 towed sonar system. That's part of the ASW module for whenever they have that on board. The Argonne ST-WBR-2000 electronic support measure or ESM system is on board with very little public knowledge, very little public facts about that. We don't have much to give you on that one. They do have the WSC-6 SATCOM system for communication worldwide and the URN-25 tactical air navigation system. Terma SKWS decoy launching system, also called Alex, is great. It can do all sorts of decoys, chaff, flare, infrared, combination of the two, and anti-torpedo decoys are all part of the Alex automated decoy launch system. All right, let's begin with the heart of the ship. This is the Rolls-Royce MT-30 gas turbine engine. It's a very high power and a derivative of the Trent Arrow engine. It generates 36 megawatts of power, although it is rated up to 44 megawatts if it needs to, but generally 36 megawatts of power. It weighs 32,000 kilograms of weight, my goodness. And it spins at 3,600 RPM, twin spooling gas generation system, and it's fully integrated with electronic control system. So obviously they're not controlling this with valves in the engine room. They're doing it electronically from the bridge. And this IOC'd in 2006 for the LCS program. All right, so the Colt Peel Stick 16PA6B. I got very excited when I saw this diesel engine is being used on board the LCS Freedom class because this is manufactured by Fairbanks Morris. Fairbanks Morris is the company that makes the very reliable diesel engines for our American submarines, and they're making the very reliable diesel engine for the LCS. So if all else fails, I am confident as a sailor that this engine will always run and they'll have a means of propulsion. despite other failures in the powertrain. This 16-valve diesel engine is rated up to 8,100 kilowatts. It spins at a 1,050 RPM and has a 96% efficiency rate. That is a hallmark of Fairbanks Morris engines. They're extremely efficient. And with just a little bit of maintenance, they'll last forever. Of this new version that they're building, there's only 840 worldwide. This is the top of the line in terms of naval diesel engines, in my opinion. That's the Colt Peel Stick 16PA 6 Bravo. Mission modules. All right, let's start breaking this down. This can get a little complex if you're only listening, so I'll try and go slow. Each one of these Freedom class can be fit with any number of 3 mission modules. First, we have the MCM. That is the Mine Countermeasure module, designed to detect and neutralize mine threats. Very straightforward. Then we have the Surface Warfare Package, which is the exciting one because you get to see all the weapons on it. And that is for maritime security and prosecution of small boat threats. Thus, the littoral combat mission, capability. ASW is to detect and classify and localize, prosecute enemy submarines, is the last mission package. So those are the 3: anti-mine, anti-surface, anti-submarine. 3 packages. Now, the Navy plans to procure 55 LCS ships, and on those ships, they are also procuring 16 anti-submarine warfare modules, 24 mine warfare modules, and 24 SU or anti-surface warfare modules. So you can see building and buying the modules is separate than the ship. They pay for the ship. The ship comes with a module installed, and in storage, essentially, the Navy has, NAVSEA has, all these other mission modules that they can put on any one of the Freedom classes. They can literally change the mission of the ship and its capability by taking out an old module and putting in a new one. Now, originally, when this was designed in the late 1990s, it was believed they could do this over a weekend. They could pull in on Friday, and by Monday, go from being an anti-submarine warfare ship to a surface warfare ship. That is not at all how this works in reality. This takes time. The numbers, no one will give me a firm number, but it's somewhere close to a month, close to 4 weeks to go from one module to another in that realm. So it's not done often. But know that they can do it, and the Navy has purchased more modules than they have ships. So they intend on certainly swapping these out depending on the needs of the Navy. All right, mission module. The MCM has an aviation asset, which would be the unmanned aerial vehicle. They could also use the helicopter as well. So the Mine Hunter USVs are unmanned surface vessels that go out and look for mines. With that, they have the USV payload. So these payloads come in large containers that they sit on the back of the ship, where the hangar is, where the flight deck is, by the way, which means it would be very likely that they would use the unmanned smaller aircraft in combination with the Mine Hunter USVs. And then they also have the Knifefish UUV, which is the unmanned underwater vessel that swims down and looks for the mines while submerged. So it can do an unmanned surface search, an unmanned underwater search, and have an unmanned aerial asset supporting the mine hunting. That's the MCM module package. Now, let's move on to the anti-surface or the SUW package. This has the gun mission module installed, which has the Mark 46 GWS. Those are the 30 millimeter cannons, port and starboard, over top the hangar on top of the superstructure. They shoot 400 rounds a minute, and they have 24 rounds in each magazine, and then they can push more ammunition up from the bottom if they need to. Surface-to-surface missile module, they have the surface, the AGM14 Hellfire, long-range Hellfire missile. They also have the aviation module, MH60R, that's the Seahawk helicopter. That's going to be supporting the mission. The Seahawk helicopter has weapons as well, and we'll get into that when we talk about the helicopter. And then finally, the Marine Security module is 2 reinforced hull inflatable boats. She carries those internally. You can see a picture of it in the top right-hand corner there. They just drive right into the back of the ship on the Freedom class. The Independence class is shown in the lower left. We'll get to that in a different lecture. Finally, the ASW module. The ASW escort module has a variable depth sonar, and this thing was a mess. It was not engineered correctly, properly, and was the reason why the ASW module was nearly canceled because they just couldn't get the VDS to work properly. The Navy plans on going with a new variable depth sonar called CAPTAS-4. That's being installed on destroyers and the Constellation frigate. I have not seen it on the Freedom yet, but know that the VDS is the Achilles heel of the ASW module during construction and development. So it does have a multifunction towed array that's deployed with it. There are no problems with that. It's just a noodle you put out the back and it listens to things. The torpedo defense module is an acoustic intercept, which will give you a warning if it has a torpedo in the water. And they also have a countermeasures lightweight torpedo, or LWT, tow to decoy incoming torpedoes. For the aviation module, they would have the MH60R as well. That's the helicopter, but configured with sonar buoys to support the sonar search. And a VTOL AUV. The VTOL AUV is the unmanned aerial vehicle that can support as well. I haven't seen both the VTOL UAV and the MH60R on at the same time. I believe that's an either or in this case. All right, here's the TRS3D Radar. It's made by Heldsat, designed as the SPS-75 in the U.S. Navy, so you may see it called that there. It operates in the NATO G-band, which is 4 to 6 gigahertz. It can rotate between 10 and 60 RPM, depending on different modes that you may have it in. The elevation is -2, so it looks down just a little bit, all the way up to plus 70 degrees, and can track up to 750 targets, which is a very busy day for the radar operator if he has that many. This I see it all the way back in 1998. Not necessarily new technology by this point, but one of the things that's very reliable and works on this ship. Here is the TRS4D MRESR radar, manufactured by Heldsat. Again, operates in the 4 to 8 gigahertz, a little bit higher this time. And this was installed on the newer systems, newer ships rather. Remember, they've been building these LCS now for over a decade. And so the newer ones got the upgraded radar. This one can track up to 1,000 contacts and IOC'd on the Freedom class in 2019. Here's the SQR-20 towed array built by Lockheed Martin. It's just part of the ASW module, can track targets out to 129 kilometers given the right conditions. Anytime you see sonar in a range, just understand that that varies wildly with sea conditions. But that's what we're going to say in a perfect environment, 129 kilometers. All right, here's the Alex Decoy launching system. This is really cool. They put the protection of a ship, the soft kill capability, all in one system here, and it's called Alex. It's made by the Sipican Incorporation, or corporation, I should say. This does automatic, semi-auto, and manual mode launching of decoys, RF, IR, hybrid, and anti-torpedo decoys are all launched from the same system. They have deck-mounted launchers, and they have complex processors inside that control the operation of the system. So, for instance, if they had the submarine module installed, part of the anti-submarine module is a torpedo alarm or torpedo detector. Of course, that alarm would be audible and visual, and everybody in CIC would know about it, but it also send a signal to this thing that it's time to deploy a anti-torpedo countermeasure. Now, there's probably going to be a human in the loop on that. It's not going to just automatically do it, but just know that that's how these systems work together. The system making all that work together is the COMTAS-21. All right, let's move on to the Terma SKS decoy launching system here. This is for soft weapon kills. This can fire all existing 130 millimeter decoys, so there's a larger variety of different types of decoys they can launch from this one. This is consists of a DLD6 and 12T launcher groups. Those are different types of barrels that can launch different decoys, if you will. And the idea here is to render a weapon like a cruise missile coming in useless because it can't target the ship properly. Very old school way of defending ships, but it works. And this is their version of the Terma SKWS decoy launching system on board the Freedom class. Here's the Mark 110 57 millimeter. Usually the first thing everyone sees when they look at this ship is they see the big gun on the front. 57 millimeter caliber, shoots 22 rounds per minute, has 1,000 rounds stored below deck, and it can fire 3 different types of programmable ammunition. One is point detonating, one is proximity, which would be good for shooting down aircraft and missiles, and then there's programmed modes where you can change the fuse for different types of penetration. And all that is above the idea of this lecture here, but just know that they have 3 different types of programmable ammunition, and the computer tells the fuse what to do before it's shot. This I LC'd in 2003. Here's the Mark 46 30 millimeter gun weapon system. Remember, part of the surface warfare module, they have 2 of these above the hangar deck and superstructure. These are the Bushmaster Mark 44 30 by 173 millimeter autocannons. They shoot 200 rounds per minute with a dual feed, so 200 and 200, and are remotely operated. Effective firing range of these guns is 2 kilometers. Very effective against small boats. Here's the Mark 49 Rams Point Defense Missile System. Manufactured by Raytheon, carries 21 RIM 116 rolling airframe missiles. Can shoot at a max altitude of 12,000 meters. Has different variants. They have Block 1 and Block 2 that have different effective ranges. Block 1 is at 6.9 kilometers. Block 2 is a little bit longer at 15 kilometers. And they use different types of tracking techniques like inertial guidance, radar guidance, and infrared, as well as laser proximity and impact fuses on the missiles to ensure a good hard kill on any kind of incoming cruise missile or low-flying aircraft. This IOC'd back in 1992. Here's the AGM14 L7 Hellfire. This is the naval variant of the Hellfire missile. Has a range of over 8 kilometers. Has a 9 kilogram high explosive warhead, and the saddle base guidance section replaced the RF Seeker. The first use of this missile was in 1989 with the Longbow Hellfire. This version that we're using on the Navy was IOC'd in 2018, and part of the surface warfare package module. All right, here is the RGM184A NSM Naval Strike Missile. This is made by Konigsberg. So this is a new missile. This IOC'd in 2012 and is essentially, I believe, going to be the replacement of the Harpoon for the Americans. It's basically a stealthy Harpoon. It's still subsonic, has extremely long range. It's a very efficient missile. It can go out over 180 kilometers, and it's actually much higher than that, depending on the variant of the missile. It has 125 kilogram high explosive warhead with programmable fuses. Again, you can either do impact detonation or delayed, so you have impact and then it goes into the ship and then explodes. All those different modes are available on this missile. This NSM is what we're going to call it for short. It is GPS, INS, and TERCOM guided. TERCOM is really important and something I honestly didn't know until we researched this. TERCOM means it can fly over land, because it's using terrain mapping to know where it is and to avoid things like buildings and mountains and power lines. That's where TERCOM comes in. You can still use TERCOM over the water, but on a calm day, it would just be flat. But just know that it's got an IR seeker on the nose, and it is radar guided as well. Okay. Here's the MH60R Helicopter. This is the manned helicopter that will accompany the ship, part of the surface warfare and the ASW package. It's powered by 2 GE T700 turbo shaft engines, has a max speed of 267 kilometers, range of 454 kilometer range, and that really depends. Helicopter ranges are funny because with the ASW mission, they're going to hover a lot. When a helicopter's at hover, it is generally less efficient. It's burning through fuel faster than whenever it's flying through the air because it has to create all of its own lift mechanically. Where when you're flying through the air in any direction, you can use the blades as a wing, essentially, and get more lift out of them. Anyway, less efficient at hover. She does still have 3.5 hours of endurance, has door-mounted machine guns, multifunction radar, electrical optical system for identifying targets, as well as sonar buoys in the ASW configuration. She can also shoot, well, they have the door-mounted gun. Let's leave it at that. Here's the MQ-8C Fire Scout. This is the unmanned helicopter that was originally going to be like the primary aviation source for the Freedom class, but they wisely, in my opinion, also added the manned helicopter support as well. But here is the unmanned made by Northrop Grumman. This is the Bell 407 helicopter chassis. They just modified it to be unmanned. It has a range of 150 nautical miles and has 15 hours of endurance, much more than the manned helicopter. So this can really stay aloft a long time, providing support for the ship with its electrical optical sensors, its Starlight radar option, which can do over-the-horizon targeting of small craft that are so far away the Freedom class can't see with its radar. It can send out the scout helicopter over the horizon, connect its radar with the ship, and then get an extra range in the very high fidelity too. Radar, like sonar, as range increases, you tend to get less and less detailed information. Well, with this helicopter doing over the horizon targeting, it's like you're resetting that range again and getting high fidelity targeting information from it. So very important part of the Freedom class module, no matter which module they have on board, having one of these greatly impacts how effective they are in terms of range. That's the MQ-8C Fire Scout unmanned helicopter. All right, my final thoughts on the Freedom class LCS. This was the United States' really first new ship on littoral warfare, and it was not managed well, to be fair. But now that we have them, we have 13 of these of this class, and they do a good job when they have their modules installed for doing that specific job. The real problem comes in is 5 of these, the first 5 they built, had a mechanical problem with the powertrain, which rendered them to 14 knots. They could not go to 47 knots. They could not combine their diesel and their gas and their CODAG system. That's what the problem was. They just decommissioned those 5 ships. They did repair like 2 or 3 others, but the gutting of the ship's propulsion system, the prime mover, was basically tearing the ship apart again and rebuilding it. They're like, why are we doing this? Why don't we just build new ships? Because that's what we're doing with the old one, except we're having to tear it apart first and then build it again. So it just made sense to decommission 5 after they learned the lessons of how long it would take to fix them. And that was really a big problem because of the cost and time that it took. The second part of the problem that is with both the Independence and the Freedom class is its maintenance. Whenever the ship was designed, part of the process was to research and develop new technologies. So this was a very new way of doing this. Normally, when you design a ship, you'll design as much of a prototype as you can on paper. Sometimes you actually build a prototype and then you don't commission it and you test it. It's a test ship. We had test ships for years in the 1960s and 70s, testing missile systems, and then they would rip that system off, put on a new missile system, and they were called test ships. Well, the Navy didn't want to spend the time and the money and the energy on a test ship. They were like, just build them, and we'll figure out the research and development in real time, and we'll call it sea trials, which is insane, and it did not work. It ended up costing a lot of money because with any R&D development, you're going to have failures. Only we were having failures on LCS-1, a commissioned naval vessel that didn't work because the systems were too far ahead of their time. They needed to have the bugs worked out, which is why you have an R&D process to begin with. But the Freedom class did research and development literally on a commissioned freaking vessel. And the whole program was designed to be like that. The second problem with the entire LCS program, and we'll get into this when we talk about Independence, is the maintenance. Lockheed Martin, well, the designers of the ship, in this case, Finnicoteri, Marionette Marine, were very wise. They knew that they had the opportunity to make a lot of money here to recoup those R&D costs that they would otherwise spend, since there was no R&D program rather. So whenever the ships would come back from sea and need to be maintained, it would be the contractors of the ship designers who would send Tiger teams, if you will, the teams of people to wherever they are in the world, Mayport, Philippines, wherever, and go aboard the ship and do all the software patch updates. If something mechanically broke, which happened a lot, they would fix that too. The crew, the 50 crew, the core crew that operated the ship did none of that originally. None of it. So whenever a ship pulled in to, say, Singapore, which was very common and still happens today, they have to fly a Tiger team from Wisconsin or somewhere stateside to Singapore. That includes a lot of logistical problems like passports and security clearances. And whenever they go to places like the Philippines, Singapore, Australia, some of the technicians were not allowed into the country. So there was all these other problems where only half the Tiger team would arrive. They wouldn't be able to do all the maintenance, and it was extremely expensive to get done. Those are just some of the problems with the maintaining of these ships. Whenever the ships are in home port, like Mayport or San Diego, where they're generally housed out of or operated out of there, I think there's a few out in Hawaii too, that's fine. It's still very expensive to fly a Tiger team out every time you want to update your software. Some of this maintenance has to be done monthly. So the Navy has slowly integrated the ship's crew into doing routine maintenance is the way it's done now, saving a lot of that frustration and cost. But the ship designers, because this was a whole new process, took full advantage of the Navy to maximize as much income as they could for the life of the ship. And ships today live to be 30 to 40 years old. And so they saw this as almost like a subscription service by the Navy to maintain these ships. Independence class did it too, and we're going to talk about that in the next one. And for some reason, Greece wants two of them, and I don't know why. One, Greece doesn't have any money. They sure aren't going to be paying any kind of Tiger team to come out and maintain them for them. But we'll see if that sale goes through. It hasn't happened at the time of this recording. If it does, I'll let the Patreons know. I'll give you guys an update. All right. Thanks for listening, everybody. This has been Freedom Class for better or worse. We've got them now. They're in the Navy. So let's make the most of them. Have a great day, everybody.